Well, hello, my little Armalitos. Welcome to this luscious stream of consciousness video I've prepared for you. I apologize up front for the audio quality. I know that it's a little bit shitty, but I am just using the headset microphone that I have available, so please bear with me. This video is intended for the guys in the Arma Rats group who have expressed a desire to try their hand at creating and running mission scenarios for the group. I'm going to try to make it as quick as possible. There goes my dog in the background. Quick and easy if I can. There's a lot of information, so I'll try not to go off the rails. I would like to state up front that you shouldn't think of this as a definitive guide. It's not the only way to do this. It just happens to be the way that I do it. So if you're using this as a springboard and doing research on your own and you come across good tips and tricks, please post them in the comments. That way we can both suck less at making scenarios. This tutorial will be divided into two parts. The first part is focused on using Arma's Eden editor, also known as the scenario editor or 3D editor. That's what you're watching now. The editor is what you'll use to design the missions before the actual game session. You'll use it to do things like set up the player roles that you can choose in the lobby. You'll define mission objectives. You'll place friendly and enemy units and assets. You will build physical objectives like military bases, airports, FOBs, etc. for the players to interact with. When you're done, you'll save your Eden file and then you'll export it to a format that you can open in multiplayer when you start a multiplayer session. Part 2, which is going to be a follow-up video, is going to deal with using the Zeus module in Arma to run the scenario that you created in Eden during a live game session. Eden and Zeus are very similar, but they do have substantial differences, and we will cover those later in depth in part 2. So before we can start designing, we need to make sure that a couple of settings are adjusted. First thing you want to do is go here into your options, go down to game, and when this comes up, select the difficulty tab. From here, scroll down until you see multiplayer. Right in the middle there, you have killed by. You're going to want to make sure that this is unchecked. If it's not, go ahead and deselect it. This prevents the little messages at the bottom left of the screen that tell everybody when somebody's been killed. It's good to have it disabled when you're Zeus, because if you take over an enemy AI and then the players kill it, it won't tell them that it was you, which is sort of a break in immersion for the players. Also, right below it, under Extended Map Content, you'll see these 4 settings here: friendly, enemy, mines, tactical ping. You can leave friendly on, make sure friendly's checked, but the other 3 you should uncheck. And this is also another little immersion tweak. When players look at their maps, if you have this unchecked, they are not going to see where the enemies or mines or things like that are. If they have something important that they want to mark on the map, they can use the in-game map marking tools. A little more realism for them there. Okay, so hit OK when that's done. And then the last tweak that I would suggest actually takes place in Steam, and it is the FPS counter that you see at the top right of my screen here. Right. This is extremely useful from the point of view of running the game. You can see how performance is doing, if it's dipping, if it's getting hung up. And to do this, you would go into your Steam. At the top left where it says Steam, you would then navigate to Settings, then In-Game, and then you could pick a different position, you know, top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, wherever you want it. I like mine up here. Yeah, so I really recommend having it activated, but ultimately that's going to be up to you. So at this point, I think we're ready to start. So what to do? Go ahead and hover over multiplayer. From the drop-down, pick server browser. From here, go to host server, and then you have a choice. You can either select LAN or internet with these arrows here. If you're at home on your downtime, you just want to do a little bit of designing, save the file, then do something else, you can go ahead and pick LAN. It's no problem. If you were going to be hosting a game session, of course, then you would have to pick internet. For now, I'll just leave it on internet. Make sure I have a usable password here. And then you hit host server. All right. Now we have the server screen, and here we see a list of the maps available on the left. If we select one of the maps, then we see the various scenarios or missions that are available to play or design with. The green files are editor files. You can think of them as construction files. In other words, they haven't been exported to multiplayer. The white files are indeed files that have been exported to the multiplayer format. White files are what you would select when you want to host a game. Okay? The green files are what you're going to work on. If you see an orange file here, that's just something I downloaded from the workshop. It doesn't have any bearing on what we're talking about right now. So if you've never messed around in the editor, you're probably not going to see any green files here. If you've messed around for a short time, you may see the temp mission MP file. This is the file that the editor makes autosaves to for each map, which is an awesome feature. But for now, right, let's just get started. I'm going to pick a different map here, a map that I really like the look of. And you'll want to select whichever map you've picked to design in. You'll want to select the new 3D editor and hit play. Okay, we've loaded in. Welcome to the 3D editor. This is the source of all your godlike powers when it comes to making missions in Arma. I'll give you a brief overview of the controls and such, and then I think the easiest way to learn is if we design a scenario together from start to finish. Once you see it done, I think it'll be a lot easier for you to make it your own and do whatever it is that you want to do, right? So the controls are fairly simple. To move the camera, you're going to use WASD, right? Forward, back, left, right. If you hold down the right mouse button, you'll have free look. Look up, look down, whatever you want to do. Your Q key elevates the camera. The Z key lowers the camera. If you scroll in with the mouse wheel, you will zoom in. If you scroll out, you will zoom out. If you're moving forward with W key and you hit the shift key, you will go faster. It's more noticeable if you're higher up. And you can also navigate using the map. Toggle the map by hitting the M key. Here we are. You'll see that this is the camera position, this little red camera that's on the map. WASD work the same here. Mouse wheel will zoom in and zoom out as before. If you depress mouse wheel or middle mouse button, you will move the camera. See, if I hit M, you'll see that the camera has moved. If I go over here, you'll be looking at a rocky outcrop, right? So if you right mouse button, if you hold it down, you can drag the map around. One quick additional comment here. You notice that the grid sizes change as I zoom in and zoom out. These are the smallest grids. If you didn't know this already, these are equivalent to 100 meters. If you zoom out, they'll flip to a medium-sized grid. This medium-sized grid is equal to 1,000 meters, or 1 kilometer. And then if you back all the way out, you get the very big boxes like these. These are 10 kilometers. So I find this useful when you're laying out the various objectives in your mission. You'll know that if you've set up an objective that's beyond maybe a couple of clicks, you'll know you'll need to have some kind of vehicle for the players to travel, to use to travel there, because that's a lot of walking at any given time, especially if you have 3, 4, 5 objectives. So just use it as a thumbnail of measuring distances. That's what I do. All right, hitting M brings you back to this aerial view. This is the lithium map, as I mentioned before. Whichever map you've selected is what you're going to be looking at. A couple more things that I just neglected to mention, I'm realizing now. If you hit N, you will cycle through vision options. This is the FLIR No, sorry, this is night vision. It's washed out totally. This is your infrared FLIR. Not much to look at through it right now. When you're in the map mode hitting N, if M as in Mike, if you hit Control T, you get the terrain. This is something I don't use very often, but it can be helpful to see. Like here's this dry riverbed. You can see the deeper parts are darker. I don't think you see that in like the white area here. So it can reveal some characteristics that you might prefer. I like the cleaner look, but you do you, baby. So, yeah, those are really the basics of navigating around. Next, we have the interface, and I'll explain more about what all these things do as we design the scenario together. For now, just a very brief overview. This scenario tab here is where your saving options are. You'll be going to that tab a few times. There's a couple of things in here but that might be useful, but this attributes tab is by far the most important. This is where you're going to set the foundation of the scenario, make some important decisions about the scenario in these four. So you need to know that these four are located under attributes. Okay. Under them, you have a series of quick buttons underneath right here. The most important are these two right here. These have to do with the interactions of the objects you're placing in the context of the environment. This toggles the terrain mode, and this is sea level mode. In terrain mode, objects that you place will conform to the topography. You can kind of see the ideogram they're using here as like a bent arrow, so it sort of looks like it's hugging the ground. Like this, it allows you to go into and out of the ground, keeping the object that you're placing level. You can sink it deeper into the ground. It sort of ignores the terrain. And this is snapping. This is just like, in Photoshop or other programs, snap to the ground. This is also useful, toggle rotation, because you can assign, if you select it, you can then, from the drop-down, assign, like a lock, 90-degree turns, 45-degree turns, whatever you want, for precision placing of objects. I'm not going to get too far into it right now, but just know that they're here, okay? This left palette here is your entities palette. As you place things down, you're going to populate these various folders with the units that you're placing. It automatically organizes them. It can be very useful for quickly finding things that you've placed, an hour ago and you don't remember where they are. You can also use this locations tab to quickly teleport you to different places, right? If I wanted to see, I don't know, Mozarat Death, whatever the hell that is. Sounds pretty badass. Oh, how underwhelming. It's just a flat piece of ground. All right. Something bad must have happened here. You can bounce around using just these buttons. But since most of the maps I'm not like super familiar with the different place names, that's not as useful to me as this down here. So fuel stations will be listed. Anything that's relevant to a fuel station will be listed here, power production, transmitters. If you know that, for example, you have an idea that you're going to want the players to raid a power plant, I could click this and see, okay, what's this power plant look like? Oh, that's a little bigger than I'd intended. How about this one here? Yeah, maybe, yeah, this one. Okay, perfect. That's just the right size. It automatically took me there. I didn't have to like spend 15 minutes flying around. You can use it that way if you like. You can hide this entire palette by hitting the E key. So that increases your field of view a little bit. And then here on the right is really the meat and potatoes of the Eden editor. I will definitely be saying more about this in a bit as we start designing together. But for now, you just need to know that you can use the F keys to go back and forth through these different selections, F1 through F6. It's divided, these are singular objects, so think one-offs, right? And these are groups, where it says compositions. You can just look at the little ideogram. It's like grouped together, right? So this is where like a single rifleman would be. This is where a rifle squad would be found, right? Other things that are found under F1 are single things like a house or a garage or a tree or a bucket, right? One-off things. Whereas this, if you're trying to place objects, you're going to find compositions, which are like this power plant you're seeing here. Several buildings in relationship to each other in a section of wall and whatever guard tower that is, and some razor wire fence. Like a composition of multiple entities can be found under F2. You'll see that they have subgroupings too, right? So you're seeing blue, red, green, and purple. Blue will always indicate blue for Western units, you could think of it as. Red is OpFor, so anything that the game categorizes as Eastern units will be here. Green being independents, and purple being civilians, okay? I'm sure I'll mention this later, but down here you have a check that toggles whether or not you're placing vehicles with or without a crew. When it's checked, the vehicle will be placed with a crew. So if you put a helicopter down, there'll be a pilot and a co-pilot. If you want just a helicopter, you have to remove the check from this box. This is triggers, more on that later. Waypoints, more on that later. And then here is the engine. This modules, it's under systems, modules. This is where all of the function behind the scenario is handled. You have all kinds of effects, ambient sounds, things related to the scenario, things related to Zeus. They can all be found here. And then lastly, this markers tab is for placing these kinds of markers on the map to let your players know that, you know, this is where the objective is, this is where you'll be inserted or exfilled from, etc. All right. Now, let's get designing. All right, so how to start. I think that this is going to be very, very unique to you, how you want to do this. Obviously, you're going to need some kind of idea or inspiration for what your scenario is going to be about. And if you don't have any going into it, don't worry. A lot of times you can get inclinations of what you want to do just by using the map. Because of course the scenario is very strongly influenced by the features of the map, right? Where the FOB's going to be, where's the mission going to start, where are the objectives going to be in relation to where the mission's going to start. It's sort of hand in hand. On the right hand you have an idea. I want to do hostage rescue, and the left hand is the physical features of the map. How can I plug this into where locations are relative to each other? So if you're not sure what to do, just have a look at the map. Travel around and see. We happen to have started in this city area. I don't know what it's called. Kale Nui. Okay, we're in Kale Nui. This is a terrific map. Whoever made this is freaking really loved it, man. There's so much detail in here. It's fantastic. Look at this. This would be a cool little CQB raid. Maybe we could add some aluminum fences here to make it even more of a maze. That might be fun. See, right away you could start to get like little ideas. Well, I didn't think about that. And then you have something like this here. Look at this magnificent freaking temple complex, man. The firefight would be so cool in here. Man, somebody really loved this thing. Look at that. Look how much time they spent making this. It's a little open in here, so I don't know what we could put in here. Maybe there's other temple building things that we could add in here. Or, I don't know, fires. Maybe it's been under attack before. And we can go inside and have a look too. Wow, just love this thing. It's so magnificent. This is actually a good segue to a point that I'd like to make. If you're not sure if buildings are playable, right? One of the things you can do is just literally plunge the camera into the building. If you see that it's rendered, everything in here is viewable for the players, then you know that it's enterable. Okay. If you have your doubts and you see something, this is a very well made map, so most of the buildings are enterable here. I know from previous experience, you see the same types of buildings over and over again. You learn which ones are enterable. Like this thing right here is not, right? So how do I know that if I've never seen it before? Poke the camera into it, and you'll see the walls are invisible. There's no rendered space in here. It's just a shell. So that is not something that they could, like, there's no hatch at the top that they could go into. That will not open for them. So just jump the camera right into it. And you could just keep doing this. You could use the map here and go. If you hover at a certain height, you will see the physical features. These little gray dots correspond to the various buildings. In fact, this is that temple that we were in, right? So after a little while, if you're not used to this, you'll get better at it. I know from experience that these little dots here are like the Adobe buildings, and you could start to see what military complexes look like. This is an airport. You could just tell by looking at it. Let's see. Where's another interesting? Rommel Caves. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, cool. Look at this. See that little hole right here? That is something we could go into. I don't want to go too fast here, so pussyfooting around. Okay. Yeah, look at this. You could actually put stuff in here. You could put like tents and enemy supplies, like a weapons cache. The players could maybe have to go in here and find the weapons cache, set some charges and blow it up. You could put a ton of AI in here. That would be cool. And then the surrounding area, what is that? That's like an industrial? Yeah. Maybe they blow up the cache, and then maybe they have to come here and attack it. Attack that hard point. You could add some military fortifications over there, put some guard towers. Very cool. All right, I'm not, this is super usable. I am like, oh, look at this cool bridge. It'd be fun. You could put like some technicals on here to give the players a hard time. I'm like totally inspired by that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let you do that if you want to do it, or I'll do it in a future mission. For now, I think I'm gonna go with this area up here to the northwest where I've designed the scenarios before. I'm going to start here. This is an excellent allied base, Blue 4 base. I mean, it doesn't have to be Blue 4. It could be OpFor if you want, but this map like simulates Afghanistan, so this is a Blue 4 base. It's perfectly serviceable. I've used this as a start point for missions before, but I'm going to deconstruct it and show you some of the ways that you can reconstruct it very quickly. Before I do that, though, let's talk about those attributes that we're going to need if we start a scenario. I'm going to hit E to erase the palette. I'm going to hit R to erase the palette on the right too. Now I'm just looking around with no obstructions. Under attributes, we have the General Environment, Multiplayer, and Performance tab. Now is a good time to start making some decisions about our scenario. So open up the General tab. From here you can name your scenario, right? I don't have an idea for a name, but I could do whatever. We could call this Operation Thunderbolt, whatever. We can also here under miscellaneous, we can decide the allegiance of the green faction, the Independents. As it's currently set, Independent is friendly to Blue 4 and is an enemy of the OpFor. So you can do whatever you want here. If you want to have a versus all type scenario where there's 3 combatants, you just do this. Everybody's fighting everybody. You could make the Independents be in alliance with everyone. It's up to you. You do what you want here. Okay. This I also suggest that you check editable objects in Zeus, and basically what that does is when Zeus opens up, you're going to have anything live. You're going to be able to, so like AI units, you're going to be able to see them on the map and manipulate them. But things like buildings and other things like that, they generally won't show up unless you tick this. So the things that you've placed in Eden, if you want to be able to interact with them in Zeus, make sure this is checked. Now, why wouldn't you want that checked? Well, if you've really placed, 1,000 or more objects in your map and really gone overboard, it might make looking around in Zeus kind of a challenge because you've got all these different objects. If that's the case, if you've really gone all in on your scenario, my suggestion is to use the module that Zeus has that allows you to make editable only the objects in a certain area or radius. So you can say in this area only make everything editable. We're going to cover that more in video part 2, but If I was in that situation, I would defer to using Zeus's modules to make things editable. Otherwise, though, like I said before, make sure that's clicked. Now, there's some other interesting things in here. I don't think I'm going to get into them, except for maybe states. There's some stuff here that you might want to make sure are selected. Specifically, I'm referring to the debug console. The default is available only in editor, and that could cause a problem for you if you have scripts or commands that you want to write in that console that you get when you hit the escape key, which is why whenever I design something, I hit available for the host or logged in admin. I make sure that it's set to this. That way I have a console in case I need it. It happened to me in one scenario where I didn't do this, and that's how I learned that you need to do this. I think this is more of a thing for groups that have like 80 people and they don't know, and there's a chance that they could have trolls around. You'd want to, or people that are using a server, and but we tend to do things in a very smaller scale, manageable way, so this is not a problem. Otherwise, you can mess around with loading screens and establishing shots and intro text. I use a different method for that, which I will show you, but at least you know where they are now. Okay, so that's the general tab. Hit OK. And then underneath it, you're going to have the environment tab. I don't always know necessarily if it's going to be a daylight op or a nighttime op right at the beginning. I make that decision a little bit later, but this is the slider you would use to change that. Right? If you want people bumping around in the dark, just go ahead and jack that all the way up to 11:30, hit OK, and suddenly it's dark, right? These lights are native to the map, and you can turn them off using a feature in the modules. I can show you that a little bit later. Quick word on lights that you place. Objects that you find in this palette over here under props. You dig out some lights here. In the editor, since the simulation hasn't begun, they're not going to show that they're on. And it's like, why don't these lights work? It took me a while to figure out that you have to preview the scenario by hitting play to see the lights come on that you've placed. Just something to remember for later. In any case, back to the attributes environment window here. One thing that I do want to say about nights is that when you look at this drop down here, right, the actual date of the month, one really amazing feature of Arma is it shows you when the cycles of the moon. So on the 1st you have a full moon. And if you were to select that, it would brighten things up versus if you were to do it on a new moon when there is no moon. So this is new moon, right? So let's see, that's pretty damn dark, like I can't see a damn thing right there. And then this is full moon. See, and now we get some terrain. I can even see that it looks like, what is that, like a wall or a fence or something? Yeah, it's a tree going through a fence. So when I do night scenarios, I always make sure to pick either a full moon night or close to a full moon night. The AI is still affected by the darkness, the players are still affected by the darkness, but it's just a little less of a pain in the ass than walking around in absolute complete darkness. It makes the night vision goggles work a little bit better if there is some available light for the nods to pick up. Back to environment. The rest of I'm going to put it back to daytime. It's easier to see. The rest of these options here are all like the weather, and it's very cool. I advise that you mess around with this if you want a nice, shiny, sunny sky, or if you want to have big, poofy clouds, or you want it to look like it's raining. All of that can be handled in here. Enough said. Hit OK. And now multiplayer, very important things to do in here. We're going to define this as a cooperative mission. I don't think it matters other than it lets people know in the loading screen that it's a cooperative mission. Minimum players, I always put 1. Max players, I always put more than I think I'm going to need. Okay, and then in the lobby, I disable AI. If this was a single player game that we were designing, I would enable the AI so you'd have some bros, some robo bros, but since we always play multiplayer, I don't feel the need for AI, so I click that off. And then here in Respawn, this is crucial. You're going to want to hit this drop down and pick Respawn on Custom Position. This allows you to do that thing where you come back and you pick the area that you want to respawn from. And then once you get this drop down, make sure that these three things are checked. Select respawn loadout, select respawn position, show respawn counter. You don't have to check anything else, but do make sure that these three are checked. We have a respawn scripts that we use that we put in the mission folder once the mission is done being designed. I will of course show you how to do that at the end of this video. So we don't use all of the Eden respawn options. We use some custom options. So just expect that that will come at the end of the video. But for now, you also want to put in a respawn delay. I do about 4 seconds. You could do 8, 10, I don't know. That's up to you. 4 is quick enough. If you don't put something here, you're likely to have a glitch where players respawn at the very ultimate left corner of the map. I had this happen more than once, which is how I know that it's a thing. I had to look it up and spend about an hour figuring out what the hell I was doing wrong. I was hitting the play scenario and testing, and I would spawn in the ocean. I was like, what the hell's going on? So that's because I forgot to set a timer here. I don't show the scoreboard. I don't know. It seems silly to have that. I think that's about it. Yeah, that's all that we do here. So go ahead and hit OK. And then the last one here is performance. I don't do a lot in here, but it is important to know what you can do in here. So probably the most important set of options is this garbage collection screen. For example, you can set the maximum limit of the player's dead bodies. If you thought it might be a problem, like if you're trying to do a scenario where they really have to conserve ammunition and supplies, maybe you want to limit this to a very low number, so, or maybe even 0. Like you can't, like once you die, your body disappears immediately, just to make sure that people aren't rifling through their dead bodies as backpacks for extra ammunition or whatnot. Our players are all friends, and we're all, good at sort of respecting the spirit of the scenario's design, because, we play well with each other, but if you had like a big room full of people you didn't know, this would be much more critical. And this is also good for processor, like preserving your processor. If you're going to have hundreds of bodies pile up, if you've got the monster machine, maybe you want to increase this for realism. I don't know. Anyway, it's here, right? So we hit OK, and that's that. So now we've covered the main things about the scenario. We're going to want to save it. You don't have to do this at this point. I'm just a little bit paranoid about losing my work. So the first thing I do is I go to Save As. And I try to think about what the mission objectives are going to be before I decide what I'm going to call it. And in some instances I have like a naming convention, like my French Foreign Legion themed missions all have a mythical name in French. Licorne is unicorn, Méduse is Medusa, Tarasque is, well, Tarasque or whatever. Anyway, you do what you like to do. So here, what did I say we were calling this? Thunderbolt or something? Thunderbolt. Okay. So now my work is, I have a file saved. This is strictly, we're talking about an Eden editor construction file, one of those green files that you saw in the host server screen. If we were to fast forward a couple hours and I was done designing this scenario and I'm like, this is it, everything's been done, I would go here and I would hit export and then export to multiplayer. That would automatically create one of those white entries that you saw, and that's what I would click on to launch the multiplayer game. The distinction is important because you can preview the scenario by hitting play scenario here in Eden, and it'll start up a multiplayer session of your scenario. But I understand that some of the functionality won't really work, or won't work well, or work differently than when it's been exported to a multiplayer. So even though you're going to be testing your scenario a lot as you design it, the final ultimate test should be done by launching an actual multiplayer session. That's going to be the best play test of your mission. So keep that in mind, right? So now we're ready to start. and I like to start at the beginning. I like to think about, okay, what is going to be the theme for this? So right off the bat, like I said before, I would just use this F.O.B, but I want to show you guys all the tools and things that are available. One of the first tools I want to show you is under Environments in F5 Systems Modules. You have the ability to hide terrain objects or edit them, right? Because right now I can't really edit these things. If I touch it, if I click on it rather, I don't get anything. I can't click drag to select any of these items. They're hard-coded into the map. These options allow me to interact with that. Hide terrain, wherever I put this, it's going to make it, like, look at this gym equipment. These guys are already too juiced up. We want to get rid of that. If I put that down, it disappears. Okay? That's what that little module does, is it hides things like buildings, it hides things like walls and trees and bushes and things like that. And you can set the size of this dark gray circle that you're seeing, the area of effect, by double clicking on it and going into transformation. A lot of the things that affect a certain space, like this module or triggers, you can go into transformation and decide whether you want it to be a round shape or a square shape, and then sizes in meters here. I'm going to set this for 100 meters because I want the entire F.O.B to disappear. That's probably too many, but whatever. Click OK, and now the entire F.O.B is covered. If I zoom out, you'll see the area that's being covered. Right, so this square area right there, the entire F.O.B has disappeared. If I move it, if I make this go here, some of the F.O.B will come back, right, because it's outside the area of effect, but I want to cover it all up. Bip. Let's get rid of them trees too. All right, so that's gone, and now we can start designing our own F.O.B from scratch. Another thing that can be quite useful is as you get down to the ground level, and by the way, this is something you should do a lot when you're designing a scenario, is take the camera down to the player's level, which is probably around here, and have a look periodically. If you're putting a lot of walls and construction things together, you will see holes and misaligned corners and things like that that you miss when your perspective is like 100 meters in the air like this. So I don't like to create F.O.Bs where there's like a lot of grass, because it comes through the furniture and the floors and it looks kind of cheesy to me. So I go here into Objects, and I look under Props, and then under Things, and then this second category of objects here, you will find grass cutters. They get rid of the grass here. Before I select it and place it here, it's a good segue for me to show you. You noticed, like, it took me a while to find this. I happen to know by heart where they are, but like, how the hell would you find that if you've never done a single thing in Eden? You wouldn't know to look under Things, Objects, you know, what have you. You can just use this really cool search feature here, grass. Right, this is all the objects that have the word grass in their class name. And if you scroll down, you can see grass cutter. You can also bounce around to these different categories too, leaving grass in the search name. And if there's anything under blue 4 called grass, it'll come up. I guess there probably isn't in any of these other categories. Anyway, that's how you use the search. The search feature is really amazingly great, both when you're learning in the beginning and also when you've been doing it for a while, because it's just a great time-saving feature. So back to the grass cutter. I want a large one. You can see it's anywhere that is within that square. Well, that's making me look like a liar, but it doesn't always work great. Depends on the grass. Maybe I have to wait a minute for the textures to pop. Why is that happening? Oh, I see. It's a little bit elevated because of where I put it, because I'm hugging the terrain, I think. Anyway, what I do when I'm using this grass cutter thing is I copy and paste it. Let's get rid of it. So put this here, right? It made the grass disappear. I make sure that it's selected. I hit Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste. Okay, Control-V. And you can do that with any assets that you position. If you've got it selected, you Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste, just like in Windows. Control-X if I mouse over something. Pay close attention to the cursor. I can't really zoom into the cursor, but you'll notice that when I hover over the indicator, I get a little white box. That's just a little positive confirmation that that's what the cursor is over. If I hit Control-X, that will disappear. Okay? So Control X is whatever you've got under the cursor. It's got a little white box like that. It's going to disappear. It's going to be cut. You can also click and drag to select. Now both of these things are selected. I could also click one and then Control Shift on the other to add it to the selection, just like in Windows. So that was click once and then Control Shift, hold that down, click the other one. Now they're both selected. Okay. And then Control Z is undo one step, so that came back. Control Y is redo, so if I hit it, this will disappear, right? Control Z and Control Y. So if I wanted this entire, now one of the peculiarities, and there are a lot of them, you could see that the editor was made in iterations because some things just slipped through the cracks. Like for example, this grass cutter I can't adjust the size under transformation. There's no size adjustment here. I can't make this 100 by 100 like I did the hide terrain. So you end up having to like copy multiples and then pasting multiples if you want to fill like an area. So copy, paste, 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 paste. You know, it's sort of a pain in the ass. But whatever, that's how you make it work. And when you're designing things in Eden, get used to that. Get used to that workflow of making things work, because you will find invariably lots of things that don't work exactly the way you think they should. I know when Arma 4 comes out, all this stuff is going to be, it can't help but be streamlined and be better. But for now, stay flexible, my friends. So now I feel confident that I've got like most of the grass under control in this area. If you do this too much, I mean, it's everything that you put down in the editor is going to contribute to slowing down your processes. So you don't want to do things that are unnecessary. You don't want to put like crazy, insane amounts of this stuff down unless you really want it there. So good. Now we've got a shaved surface to play with. Where do we start? What do we do next? Well, let's see. Probably we could put a base down right away. We'll work on the players in just a minute. There's no set order really. It's whatever you want to do next. So I'm going to introduce you to pre-made compositions. We click F2. Right, this is the plurality of things that are grouped together, multiple units, however you want to think of it. And we want to go to props, which is just defaulted, this yellow one here. And from here, these are all pre-made. Some are mods, some come with Arma. They're setups that people have made and saved, that the game creators have made and saved. So if we're looking for a base, let's open the very first one here. Ares military structures. You can see the various subcategories. I'm looking for a base. Let's just pick the first one, medium op tower. Cool. Let's see. These yellow things are all the various items. All right, cool. That looks like it could be useful, but I want to turn it around. I also want to move it so this wall's not on the hill. Yeah, I want to turn it around. I want the opening, this main opening, to be facing the left side of my screen. So what I do is all of these items are selected. Okay, I'm going to hold down Shift, and from Shift I can rotate. You see the orange arrow next to the cursor? That's letting you know, like basically give you an idea of the azimuth of your rotation. So I let go at that position here. Remember I showed you earlier how you could lock down that rotation using the rotation grid. I could lock it down at 90 degrees. If I click that, if I try to rotate again, it's going to do it at 90-degree increments. Control Z to undo. So yeah, I don't want to do that right now in 90-degree increments. I would do it if I was trying to position, like build like a tunnel or walls or something that had to be perfectly lined up. If you ever find these golden yellow indicators to be disruptive, or you want to see them without, just hit backspace. That makes that disappear. Then you can zoom in here. Remember I showed you once in a while you want to go down and look at the player's view, right? You want to make sure that nothing is floating off of the ground. Looks like maybe this wall's got a little flotation in it. Let's see. Yeah. It does. How do I fix that? Hit backspace. So I click off of everything because I'm pretty satisfied with all the stuff. I want to select just this object. See the little white square around the cursor arrow? Get used to looking at that. I know that it's over the object. If I scroll off this way, it disappears. So here I have the object. If I hold down Alt, did we mention Alt before? Alt is the, Shift is what you use to rotate. Alt is what you use to make things go up and down. Let's see, how can I show it to you a little bit better? Alt, in the sky, down here like this, whatever. So here are the little quick buttons up here. This one here, vertical mode, this is, like I said before, going to hug the surface. I want to put this in the ground a little bit so there isn't this annoying little corner here. This is a little bit of perfectionism. Maybe it's not that important to worry about, but at some point something important will happen where it's not lined up right and it's glaring. So this is how you fix it. If I take it onto sea level, I can then bury this entire Hesco into the earth if I wanted to. I just want to maybe just do like the corner, like that. Now it looks like it's seated on the ground. This one's a little high and it bothers me too, so I'm going to sink it down to match. You notice that it was snapping. That's because snapping, see, like, let me show you again. See how it snaps? It gets tracked into the ground. I want to turn that off. That's how you do that. And now it's just perfect. It's a little bit of overlap. There. Okay. Okay, here's some more information regarding how to manipulate objects in the space. You can also use rotation and translation widgets, which are accessible here in the quick buttons up here, or you can simply get to them using the space bar. I've got this Hesco barrier here. If I hit the space bar with it selected, I get the translation widget. I use this by positioning the mouse over either blue, red, or green indicators. If the cursor turns blue, I'm over the part of the translation widget that raises the item up and down, right? Red will move it on this axis, and green will move it on this axis this way. That can be quite handy. Also, if I hit spacebar again, I can now rotate things with a greater degree of accuracy. Green will be on this axis, blue on this one, and red on this one, like this. Let me undo that. And so, yeah, the other way to do it, if you want really, really precise, double click, and using rotation, you can input an actual value. If you're building something that requires that level of precision, I suggest that in the server screen that you pick the virtual map. Everything is 100% flat in there, and it also has a grid on the floor that's very handy at positioning things relative to other things. For now, though, try that translation and rotation using the spacebar if you need a little bit more precision. So I like this little fob here for starting thing. It's very usable. It's right here if you want to use it again. But I also know that I'm going to need a helicopter. I'm going to want the players to ride in a helicopter in the beginning to go to the first objective. So let's look for a helipad, right? I don't feel like searching all this, so we'll go individually, so we'll just use the search bar. What's a FOB helipad look like? Yeah, that looks about right. Just a small little thing like that. I'm going to set it in the front here. Right, that's quite an angle. Maybe I would do better putting it back here. Perfect. I would like it to rotate just a little bit. If you, whoops, I didn't have everything selected there. I was actually rotating a grass cutter object. So, and we're still stuck on 90 degree. No, I guess not. I guess because I grabbed the outside. If I grab the center, it'll rotate from the center. And then you see the length of the arrow. My advice to you is if you want a precise rotation, make it a long arrow. If it's like a real short arrow, it's hard to get it to be precise because the movements are exaggerated. So the longer it is, the more you have access to, like, you can guess what individual degrees of rotation are. So that looks pretty squared away. Okay. I'm going to hit backspace, take a look. Looks fine. Get down to the player's level. This is a windsock. Remember I told you in Eden the simulation is not active, so you don't actually see the windsock blowing in the wind. If I were to preview this, you would the sock would appear and would respond to the influence of the wind. We need another grass cutter right here. Don't need it, I just want it. So I copy pasted one and added it in the corner. I also don't like this bush. You offend me, be gone. I am Eden, I am God. Okay, so we're going to eventually put a helicopter there. So what's next? Well, let's talk about the players now, right? We're going to want to do some assign the roles for what our friends are going to do. One way that you can do this is just pick a squad configuration already that's already made, like this rifle squad, and you can use this as a template for the roles that the players are going to play. What do we have here? A rifleman, a grenadier, another rifleman, a grenadier, a team leader, automatic rifleman, team leader, automatic rifleman, and squad leader. I've seen some people do it that way. This is not what I do, because there's some roles missing here from what we typically have available. There's no medics in this squad. There's no recon guy in this squad. There's no AT guy in this squad, right? So, but since they're here, let me show you a couple of things about selections. If I click this squad flag here, that's the caret that's over the squad leader. This is a quick way to see who the squad leader is, because this is going to point right to him. Click on that, you get all these dudes. How do I know I have all the dudes? Because they have this blue box around them, every guy, right? So if they were an OpFor, this would be red. If they were independents, these boxes would be green. Anyway, they're blue because they're blue 4 guys. And then what are these lines here that go from the individual dudes to the squad leader? These are basically, you're syncing the units to a leader. You're deciding who the leader is. It's easy to remove this. You just select everybody and you would pull it off into an area where there is nothing, and you let go, and now they're all their own leader, right? You see how the little caret appeared on over every single dude. You could assign a different guy. You could say we're going to follow this automatic rifleman instead of the squad leader if we want. Now they're all, so I hit control, left control, and I dragged, and I went over the blue. Remember the little white box that happens at the tip of your cursor that lets you know you're over the blue indicator for the actual asset? And then I let go, and it makes them all point. But anyway, you want to keep that on the squad leader. Whoops, what happened? Everybody listen to me. All right, let's try one more time. All right, let's deselect and let's do it again. Okay, now everybody's following our squad leader dude. And you can also rotate the selection, by the way. If you hold down shift, you can give it a different orientation. If you were to hold down alt, just like we did previously with the Heskel barrier, you can raise them up, lower them down. If we have snapping selected, they'll snap to the ground on their own. But I want to get rid of these guys. That's not how I'm going to create my squad. Control X gets rid of them. I am going to go here into objects. These are the individual dudes, okay? And I am going to hit this little minus to shut down this NATO tree of options. Scroll down to our rangers, and we'll get some dudes on the ground to start kicking tigers in the face with their ranger legs. That is definitely acceptable. Okay, under men, I start picking the roles using individual dudes. So I want a squad leader, right? That's a role that I want. He's going to face away from us. He's going to face his men. I want a recon guy, so a sniper, Let's see, we'll give him a M110 here. He can be that dude there. I know that I'm going to want 2 riflemen, right? I picked them. Like now, if it's a role that has more than 1 slot, like I just said, 2 riflemen, I'm just going to put 1 down at this point because I have yet to go through and tweak their loadouts. Okay, so looking ahead to the future, I don't want to duplicate the work. I want to do the work once, copy, and then paste it. So I would go into this rifleman 1 time, tweak his loadout to what I want the players to have, then I would select him, copy him, and paste him, so that the guy that gets pasted has the exact same loadout as the guy that I edited myself. Okay, that's just a good habit to have, so you're not spending hours duplicating labor that you've already done. So yeah, we've got a recon guy, we've got a rifleman. There's going to be another rifleman here. Okay, then we also want an AT guy. I prefer the Carl Gustav. The javelin is very unwieldy for whoever's playing that role. Generally, we have 1 AT specialist in a squad. And then we want a medic. Right, now here's another role that gets duplicated. So we have the option for 2 players to pick medic. I'm just going to place the 1. And then we want our machine gunners. If I see that the faction has an automatic rifleman and a machine gunner, I will do 1 of each. Okay? That gives the players an option to come in with a 5.56 caliber weapon or a 7.62 caliber weapon that's a little heavier. It's up to them which one they like better, and then they can fight about it in the lobby. So what do we have here? This would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's a typical squad. So this would be like a typical Ranger squad for our bros to play with. You could add more or fewer options as you wish. So another one that I sometimes include will be a grenadier, or sometimes I'll make a rifleman grenadier by default. So then I tweak loadouts. I am not going to tweak loadouts now because I feel like that you don't really want to watch that. But I'm going to show you how to do it so you can do it on your own. I call this playing Barbies because that's really what you're doing. You're playing dress up with your little men's here, although they are some super salty Rangerific dudes. Look at them. Yeah, they're ready. They're ready to kick in some doors. How you get to the loadouts, there's more than one way. Like most of the things in the editor, you're going to select your dude, and you're going to right-click. And then from right-click, you're going to down here to edit loadout. And then select. It's up to you. You can do either one of these choices. I do ace. Okay. So from here, we're looking at this guy. You know how to use this because you used it before many times. But you could come in here and tweak all his stuff and get rid of the stuff that you don't want him to have, and blah, 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 and then hit apply, and then he'll have that. And then, like I said before, once he's done, you hit copy and paste. Okay? So, and then if you want the second option to look a little different, you could give a different helmet or something so that players can easily tell each other apart. But I tend to not maybe get into quite that much detail. It's up to you. Another way that you could do it, select a guy, and then you go up here to Inventory Manager. Make sure the dude's selected, hit Inventory Manager, and then hit Open. And this one, I am going to say straight up, I don't have a ton of experience with, so maybe if you get good at using this, you could teach me how to do it. But you can, like, rifle through his pockets, right? I can see what he has. His uniform is 40% full. He's carrying some magazines. So this I find very cool. Maybe I should try to switch to this because it's just really fast and easy to see what this guy's carrying, right? Where are the crayons? Where's the porn? Oh, yeah, you're going to have to make some tweaks here. I don't think it's as easy to add the things you're looking for. Maybe it is. You don't get to see like what mod it came from, so that makes it a little bit harder to match the gun to the correct ammunition. There is a search bar, so anyway, have fun figuring that out. And maybe I'll get with it a little later myself too. So I said I was gonna duplicate that guy, and now I want to make these guys playable. First of all, I want you to notice that the first person I put down was this squad leader, and he has a red ring. These guys don't. What does that mean? That means that this dude is by default set to be the player in a single player game. So if I were to start this in single player with AI enabled, in the lobby I would be this dude, but then these guys would all spawn with me, and they would be in my squad, and I could give them orders like in the campaign. Now if I want the choice of one of these guys in a multiplayer game, I have to set it up to be playable. So I double click the dude, and I'm gonna not make him player, just playable, okay, and it'll switch to a purple ring around him. So you have to do that with all these guys until they, what happened there? Did I not do it? Okay. Until they all have this magenta ring around them. And what you're doing there is you're telling the game that this is going to be a potential slot that multiplayer players can choose. It'll appear in the lobby screen. Okay. I'm sorry. You guys get the point, okay? So if you see that they have magenta here, or if we open this palette over here, you'll see that they appear in purple, except for these medics I didn't get to. This means that they're playable. This is a very good thing to reference if I were to place like a red guy, right? This is something that infuriates the crap out of me, and if you find out how to disable this, please let me know, because I haven't been able to. The first AI entity of any faction that you place down will always be player. It drives me crazy. So if I put like an independent guy down, well, he didn't do it that time, but I noticed that they do it with OpFor anyway. He's automatically made into a player. So you sometimes don't notice this until you launch the lobby, and then you see that you have blue 4 choices and OpFor choices, and then you know, if you've put down 50 AI guys, it can be hard to find which one is the guy who has been placed down as a player. So you just look here in entities, look down under OpFor for the one that's red, and then you can just double click him from this menu on the left, uncheck this, and then resave your scenario, and it'll work fine. So now he's not playable. All right, let's get rid of him. We don't need him right now. So the other thing that I will do when I am creating the players for the scenario is I give them limited supplies. I don't believe in just putting down an ace arsenal. I don't think that's very realistic, that you would just have access to, thousands of weapons. I don't think that's very realistic. So how do you do that? You go here into props, okay, under F1, props, and I'm going to do a quick search for ammo. Now, most of the faction creators have included pre-made faction-themed supplies. So let's see if there's some for the 75th Rangers. That would be under US 75th right here. So there are some, right? We have some ammo boxes, right? Put that down here on the ground. So various magazines. We also have, what's this? This is launchers. I could tell just by looking at the shape of the yellow thing here, right? So the AT guy, maybe, I prefer Carl Gustav's, but maybe this dude likes javelins better. He could go in here and get himself a javelin. I don't have a problem with that. This might have some different guns and optics to suit the individual player's preferences. I think that's a good thing to provide. Uniforms, that's already been selected for them. They don't need that. Maybe some weapons here. So I won't do it now, but before the game I would have gone into these things and made sure that there's not like crazy stuff in there, or that there's not good stuff that they should have that's missing. And then the last thing I always include is I search for ACE, and I look for the ACE medical, which is right here. You have advanced and basic. I put one of each down, advanced and basic, so that they can refresh their medical supplies and maybe help the medic out by carrying some extra bandages or whatnot. And then lastly, there's this thing called miscellaneous items. It's going to have chem lights, earplugs, entrenching tool, wire cutters, those kinds of things. So minus the step that I told you that I would normally do, where I go into these various boxes, and how do you go into them? You just double click. You select it, double click, and then under equipment storage, you can see everything that's in this box. Okay. So I might tidy up a little bit. They don't need, some of this stuff. What did I see? Like some uniform items. We can get rid of the cry. They already have like a uniform that's been selected for them, right? I would get rid of this. And if I find something that they should have, I'll put it in there. So I'll do that for each box. And then I'm going to save this work. And this, my friends, is by far the greatest feature of the Eden editor, in my opinion. You can drag a box around this whole thing, right? And then you hit right click and then save custom composition. And then it's going to prompt you for what you want. These are guys that I've made before, right? We've got a Spetsnaz team I made, French Foreign Legion, SAS. These are my DevGru Navy SEAL dudes with each in a different like camo pattern for a different deployment. I've got mercenaries, like 1970s Rhodesian mercenaries, a cartel hit squad. I don't have any rangers, so I'll save it here just for now, and then I'll tweak it a little bit later. So U.S. Rangers. I think I've done Marines in the past too. Yeah, Assassin 4-2. I usually give them a call sign, so I haven't really thought about that yet. So I'll edit it later. It's easy to edit this. Go down to a category that fits. In the case of units, playable units for the players, I always save to this category, men, and then hit OK. And then you'll see this is found here on the right under compositions. This, I got it set to ace in the search bar. Let me unclick that. This weird like white 3 circles within like a ring. These are all custom compositions that I have saved in the past. I really would like to encourage you to make use of this. You could spend an hour making one base, and the nice thing about this is you never have to do that work again. You save it, and then with 2 clicks you can recall it in future missions. Ad nauseum forever. It's really cool. So yeah, I mentioned like the different dudes. Here's my Navy SEALs, right? And why do I have them saved this way? Actually, in point of fact, I tend to make them even closer together. This is where they'll actually come in when you select them. They'll actually, if somebody were to select a sniper, that's where he'll spawn in, is like in that orientation. So I tend to make them kind of tight. They like fit the briefing area a little bit better, and I always put the squad leader, like, 'cause squad leader usually gives the briefings in our games. This is the shotguns. I often add shotguns to the selection supply. If somebody really wants to run with a shotgun, they can. But see, I just recalled this with 1 click using the compositions. Excuse me. That's super freaking handy. While we're talking about compositions, I'll show you some of the other things that I've saved that can be useful. I mean, it's not just squads of guys. Sometimes it's like a whole, like a villa. This will look like shit because I don't have enough flat ground. But I made this villa, and it takes a minute to pop in here, especially on this map. This map is very, very detailed, so things take a little longer to render. So yeah, you can see if I hit backspace, right? This was a drug lord's villa that I had made. And it's even got furniture inside all these buildings. Every single little thing that I had placed here, burning barrels, minus the actual dudes. When I save a composition, I don't always save the entities, the AI entities, because, maybe I want a different faction using this. Maybe it's a drug lord in this mission, but in another mission, maybe I could use it as the, commander's personal residence of, a South American or Russian army, whatever. You get the idea. We'll get rid of that with Control-Z. So, yeah, now we need a little bit of a briefing area, okay? So I'm going to leave these guys hanging out outside the base for right now. I'll move them a little bit later. And we'll go in here into the base. And you can design a little area to have the briefing at the beginning of the mission. Go into F1, go into props, and you can just start searching for stuff, right? So you need a table. Whoops, I wasn't in the search box. Okay, so all kinds of tables come up. You pick whichever one you like. The one I like is called wooden table. I often scroll right by it. This one, large, right? Use shift, hold it down, change the orientation, right? We need a whiteboard. So here's an empty one. And in my pre-saved compositions, I have a whiteboard that's already programmed to show our River Rats logo here. You can just get that from me. But there's a code that you can put, if you double click on it, you put it here in the, I think it's the, no, it's in a different spot that you put it, right here. You can, if you have a graphic that you want to use, you can put in the path, the folder path, and point it to your graphic, and your graphic will show up on the whiteboard. You can use this just for fun, right? Like put your unit patch on here or whatever. But you can also, like if you'll remember some of the scenarios I've done where I've put mission, actually created a slide, like a picture where like mission information is on the blackboard, like a picture of the guy you're supposed to take out or rescue or, you know, whatever. And then you want some chairs. Whoops, chair is what you should search for. Most of the assets will have this little thumbnail here that you can check before you select, but not all. It sort of depends on the mod maker. It's a very handy thing. You guys have seen this camping chair a lot, right? So I'm going to change the orientation here and then copy paste. Whoops. Make sure it's selected when you copy. And using ASACs, people can sit in these chairs. You can actually have a briefing. It's a little off center. There's only 10 guys in my squad, so that should be enough chairs. Sometimes I put some extras, and we'll also put one for the guy, briefing officer, who's going to give the briefing. Okay, point this way. Yep. What else can we put here? All kinds of stuff, right? We can have a laptop on the table. We can have water bottles. You can put details to your heart's content, and the more you put, I am of the opinion that most of the stuff that you put detail-wise doesn't get noticed consciously, but I do think that it's sort of an unconscious thing that people will notice. It kind of like sets it up as more realistic to their eye. But, you know, I think sometimes less is more, certainly as far as performance. But you be the judge, right? But one thing that is good to include in this is a light. Or oftentimes you can search for lamp. Light and lamp are things are given different kinds of class names, and they don't always like make sense. Or some of the stuff has a more European flavor to the way that it's saved. It's the same thing, just a different name. And what we're looking for is portable, not these little portable things. Where are they? Nope. Sorry. It can be hard even for me to find what I'm looking for. And it might be, yeah, right here. Portable lights double and portable lights single. These are the ones that I put in my briefing area in case I decide to make this a night scenario, or in case I want to use this base again, because I'm going to save all this. Once it's done, I'm going to save it as a custom composition. And in the future, I may want to have this be a night out. So either one of these, one has two light emitters, one has one. And remember that, like if I put these lights down and I make this nighttime, you're not going to see the lights until you start or test the simulation. See how they're off. You're like, what the hell? But trust me, when you play the game, they'll be on. Back to daylight. Another good light that you should know about is the halogen light. Let me see if I can find it. You'll use this one a lot. It's the big one that has, I picked the on one. In the daylight you just won't see it, but it'll still be on. Face it where you want it to face, holding down shift, and it'll illuminate this whole area. Maybe you want to make sure it's selected, Control C. We'll put another one over here. They should probably be in the walls, right? I just put it in here real quick. And now it's going to illuminate this whole compound. Okay. So remember, always check stuff out at the player's eye level. And so now we've got all these guys. We're going to move all this into the compound. And we're going to turn all this around. Right. Whoops, I lost my selection. This is where the guys are going to stand behind the chairs. And then I'll put the supplies wherever it makes sense, maybe along this back wall. I'll fix this a little bit better later, but this is exactly how they'll spawn in. Okay, I could have done a little bit cleaner job. When the game starts, they'll be right here, and they'll see the squad leader behind the table. Okay, so that's ready. The other thing that I want to talk about a little bit here are these helipads. These are very useful for a lot of things. If you know that you're going to need to land a helicopter during a scenario in a specific location, you're going to want to place an invisible helipad. Okay, so under F1 props, type in helipad in the search box, and you see this one here called helipad. This is useful for a lot of things, not just what I'm talking about right now. It's also useful for scripts and different effects, special effects, because you can go into the helipad and you can run scripts in this init box right here, and this area will be invisible to the players. But this helipad, if I know that I'm going to need the helicopter to land at a precise location, I would put it down, and let's say it has to happen here, and it will help the AI to land exactly here. If you don't have one of those put down, wherever you need a helicopter to land, you're leaving the landing location up to the AI, and the AI can make some really stupid decisions. Even with an invisible helipad, it might make some really stupid decisions. But it helps. Like especially if they're not taking fire, they'll almost always land on the invisible helipad. If they're taking fire from somewhere, well, it might still make a decision, a combat decision that you don't like. So definitely play test your scenarios. Okay. Last thing we're going to do, place a vehicle for the crew the players to use. Now, I'm thinking that I'm going to have them do like a down pilot scenario right now. So they're going to go and fly out to the location of the helicopter crash, I think is what I'm going to do. So I don't see any helicopter. Okay, they do have helicopters. Sometimes they don't. Like if it's a smaller mod, you might have to go looking somewhere else for an appropriate helicopter, but we're very lucky. They do have a helicopter. They're going to fast rope. Maybe we could just use the Black Hawk or something. Maybe, we'll just put this down. And I'm going to want it with a vehicle crew. And you can change the orientation like this. You can also, remember those lights that I placed? How about we take this one and place it here so that if we do have a nighttime scenario, the helicopter's illuminated, they know where it is. Okay. One thing that I don't need these gunners. I always get rid of them. These guys can come out, and then I delete them. I just want to pilot and co-pilot. So this is something I recommend. I'm going to show you how to take control of this in the part 2 video. But for now, if this is an essential part of your scenario, right? Like it's essential. I don't want this destroyed on the way to the landing that they're going to do. So I put in a little bit of insurance for myself. This is going to be AI controlled. I double click on the helicopter itself and get the attributes window to come up. And then under special states down here, I'm going to remove enable damage. Okay. Make sure that this is unclicked. And now the helicopter can't be shot out of the air. Which really sucks when you're starting a scenario. That's how I learned that. So you should also know that the pilots can be killed, right? So these are going to be AI only, and they're basically just taxi drivers. But I don't want them to get shot, so I'm going to unclick enable damage for both these dudes. You could actually get rid of one of them if you wanted to. It's sort of superfluous, but There you go. Now this thing can do what I want it to do, which is take the players to the start location without breaking the entire scenario. And this brings me to another point that I wanted to make that I forgot to make earlier when you're doing things. Like putting things on top of other things, right? So let's say I want to get a laptop and I want to put it on this table. I'm going to go here like this, face it, and that's fine. Okay, you saw when I placed it, let me get rid of it, it gave you a nice little flat circle indicator. That means it's picking up really well that the surface of the table is something that it can go on. But sometimes it's not so clear. Like if I wanted to put something on the seat of this chair, probably I'm not, let's see, let me pick the same exact. Yeah, it's not going to, it doesn't pick up like it does over here that this is a flat surface. If I click, it puts it on the ground. So if I wanted to do something a little bit weird like this, I have to hit Alt, change the orientation, and then if I were to start the game with this like this, it would almost certainly, as soon as the simulation started, fly off the chair. So if I want to absolutely leave it like this, I would have to go into here and click uncheck enable simulation, and also do it for the chair, right? Remove that like that. And now these two objects will come into the game exactly like this, and they won't interact with each other's physics. So that's a good thing to know if you're going to spend time lovingly creating a table with, like, 15 guns on it and 25 magazines and some grenades to make it look like this is where you're supposed to gear up. Yeah, you start the game session and all that shit's on the ground immediately. That will really piss you off. So if you want to make sure, double click, go to enable simulation, click that off. And now when just understand though, with the simulation off, they won't be able to use that stuff or pick that stuff up. Okay, here's a quick little lesson on how to change attributes in multiple entities at once. Let's say I want to disable the simulation on all these chairs. Let's say I'm having problems when I place these things. The terrain makes them fall over at the beginning, or there's some kind of error that I don't like, or I want them to be 100% guaranteed that they're all going to be in this position when it starts. For whatever reason, you can select them all at once, right, like I just did by hitting the Shift key under the Entities palette here. And then picking one of these, I'm going to right-click on it and go down here to Attributes. If I click on that, I can just go to Special States. Where is the... Okay, so first you have to hit this. This is what you need to do to set it for all of them. Click this box. And then next to Enable Simulation, you would either want it on or want it off. In this case, we want it off, and this means it's going to get applied to all of them when I hit OK. Now you can see it did it because they all have this little red dot underneath their little yellow box. So if you wanted to do something a little bit more creative, I guess I could mention it here. You could take a dude. Let's say I want to have like a briefing officer, just somebody to add a little bit of color to what we're doing. I would go into my blue for, go into my rangers, find a dude. Right. Let's make this guy a team leader. Okay, he'll be here like this. He's not playable, right? See how he doesn't have a ring around him? Then I go in here and I can go down to the animations under description. There are literally thousands of animations in the game. You can go online and look for lists of all of them, but I found that they're not reliable. A lot of the ones that you can get, even some of these, don't always work. Like these briefing, point left, point right, point at table, don't always work, but most of them do work, right? So if I do sit at table and I hit OK, this guy goes into a sit at table animation. Now you're seeing the first frame of that animation. You're not seeing the whole thing. But if I want to, I can move the table up to him like this, and along with that, and he'll look like when this mission starts, he'll look like he's using the laptop. Now, if you want to make him look more relaxed, you can double click in here, go to his. Excuse me, I did that wrong. Right click on him, go to Edit Loadout. Ace Arsenal. Let's take off his helmet. The dude is in the F.O.B. Right? Some of the animations automatically take off his weapon, but this particular one leaves his weapon slung to his back, so I'm going to take it off manually. Also his nods. It's full on daytime, bro. Don't be so moto. Okay, hit apply. And he's got his goofy goggles still on, but whatever. Now he looks a little bit more relaxed. He looks like he's helping us out. Give this briefing. You can make little vignettes inside your base if you feel so inclined using this technique. You could, if you wanted to, like have some dudes repairing a vehicle very quickly, very easy. I could go APC. Maybe that's a little too much vehicle. Let's do a Humvee. I like this one. All right, out here. Whoops, I spawned it in with dudes. I didn't want that. Let's do it again. All right, now there's nobody in it. Now we could take two of our guys. Where are they? I'm trying to do this quickly, and it's making me go slow. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter who you pick here. Get a rifleman here, rifleman there. Okay, so this guy, we're going to go down to his animation, and there's repair. So he's going to repair from a kneeling position, and we're going to put him next to the tire. Right, and this guy's going to repair from a standing position. And he is going to be working on the hood. And then we could dress this area up, man. We could put tools, we could put some fuel cans, we could put like one of those cranes that takes the motor out. There's all kinds of crap we could do. This is your heart's content. While we're talking about vehicles, I'd like to take the opportunity to show you something real quick that you can do with a vehicle. Let's take a look at this Humvee that we've placed here. So if I double click on it, it's going to open up the attributes panel. We can go down here, and under advanced damaged, we can set damage to different parts of the vehicle, like specifically, right? So if I want the gun to be 100% damaged, I could put this up here. If I want the front window, I don't know which one that is, but probably window number 1, I set to 100, and I could give the hull a little damage. It'll look like it was shot up. You could see the changes that were made. So apparently this is window number 1 right here. Looks pretty rough right now. So that's something you can do. Another thing you can do is if you right click on the vehicle and you hit edit vehicle appearance, you could completely change the camouflage pattern. Now this particular vehicle from this mod faction only has one other option, desert. This is different components that you could interact with. This mod faction's Humvee has none, but that's not the case with a lot of different vehicles. Let's see what desert looks like. There you go. Especially like off-road vehicle, those things always have a lot of different options. One more thing to know, if we open up attributes again, double click. It seems to be taking a second for some reason. I don't know if I mentioned this before, I don't think that I did, but like if I'd mentioned off-road just now, and if I wanted to change this vehicle into an off-road, I may not necessarily have to erase the model and find an off-road and set it again in the position and try to match it exactly. I could just go through type here, object type, the very first window, type in off-road, and I could switch it for something else, a different off-road from a different faction. Let me pick something from more Western faction, maybe Western Ultranationalists, and it'll substitute the model just like that. Let me show you the kind of options that this thing has under edit. All these different paint schemes and stuff. Pretty cool little, I wouldn't say hidden features, but little known features anyway. So enjoy. Something else that I'd like to show you, if you're detail oriented like I can be sometimes, and you want to quickly put furniture in the buildings of the different areas that you're crafting, you can go ahead under F5 modules, come down here and look for interiors. This ZEI mod is what we're talking about. This one here, interiors, you'll see that this garrison building allows you to quickly put troops in a building. But I want to call your attention to interior fill. Click on that, And then you're going to click over any given building. Not all buildings are recognized by this mod, but quite a few of them are. And if you see like a little flat circle appear under the gear, you know that it's right on. You click it, and then it prompts you. You can either select a military object type or a civilian object type. In this case, pretty clear we want military. Hit OK, and it's going to populate furniture. Sort of random. It can be different every time to some degree. And you can go inside and you can see we've got some supplies. Sometimes there's tables, TVs, screens, different things come up here. It looks like this is partially a medical area. That's cool. Very, very dirty though. Not good. Okay, so anyway, and all of the items that you just placed can be moved around. They can be selected. You see all the little gray squares that have come up. Those are the objects. Sometimes you can even do a larger area. You know, something like this, you might be able to get boxes and stuff to come up on the ground. I'm sort of sometimes surprised what comes up. Like this, you wouldn't think would do anything, but sometimes it'll put sandbags. Yeah, like sandbags and supplies. Of course, weirdly, you know, it's not perfect. You can't access the stairs, so you'd have to do a little tweak here. Right-click to get remove the selection. Click the sandbags bag, Control X, or just the delete key would do it. Now you can get in there. So you can go around and do that. And if you have, sometimes it'll put like sandbags on top of a building around like the outer lip of it. It looks really cool. It's also nice if you set up like a big barracks or a big civilian building that is going to be a key building for your scenario, where maybe one of the objectives is that they have to go, and you want to up the realism. You can fill it with, you know, civilian office type furniture and equipment. I wouldn't definitely not do this for all the buildings because, as I've mentioned previously, the more entities that you place, the more processor you're using up. So if it's not something that the players are for sure going to interact with, maybe you don't want to go too crazy. But I just wanted to show that to you so you know it's there. Okay, so the last thing that I want to place in my F.O.B before we continue with the rest of the mission editing are a couple of mandatory things, and you'll find them in the modules. So F5 for systems, then modules, and if you go down here, you will see this Zeus tab. Inside of here, you want to put the Game Master module. This is what allows Zeus to be functioning when you actually play the game. Okay, oh, look at you. What are you doing over there? Come on, join your friends. Be social. If you don't put this down, you won't have access to Zeus. I have a workaround in place that I might show you part 2 using MCC, but it's just good practice to put this module down. So click on the Game Master module, and then under Owner, you're going to type in admin logged. So if you're hosting the game, you will be the owner of Zeus. You'll be the only one who can join Zeus. There are other ways of doing this, where you could go inside and you could create a player role whose variable name is, let's say, Zeus, and then under the owner you could put Zeus or whatever you want to name that player unit. You could name it your name, and then under here you would put that variable name that you gave it. And in the lobby, like let's say somebody else is hosting, in the lobby you could jump in that position and you will be assigned the Zeus role. That's an alternative way of doing it, but since when I do a scenario, I always host it. That's the way I do my Game Master modules. The other thing that you want to do is mark where you want your initial respawn to be. Now, of course, I'm going to be adding respawns and changing respawn locations throughout the scenario to make it a little bit more player friendly, but you definitely need that first one. I like to put that in before I export to multiplayer, and I open it up. It's again under modules. We go down to multiplayer, and the first option here is respawn position. I put it somewhere in here, and if you double click on it, you have to put in a couple of things. Give it a name. I think on the map it said this was called Martin F.O.B, Martin F.O.B, and it's an infantry respawn. If you wanted like if you were giving players tanks or APCs or whatever that they were going to be able to use a certain amount of, you could set up a vehicle respawn. But I'm not really doing that. This is mostly an infantry focused mission. And who is the respawn for? I don't do leading side. I specifically say blue for. You can show it to everybody, and then I disable this notification down here and hit OK. And now that's set up. So I can go ahead, make another save, and this area is ready to go. Now we just need to flesh out the rest of the scenario. Now it's time to get on with creating the objectives for our scenario. I've been thinking about it. I decided this is going to be a search and rescue mission. The players are going to have to make it to a crashed helicopter and try to find the VIP that was on board, a CIA operative, and any of the crew that may have survived. That objective is going to happen a couple of clicks to the south. What they don't know when they get there is that the operative has already been found by the OpFor and taken to the town of Garrison where he is being held prisoner. So they'll have to go there and attempt to rescue him. So right now we're going to do the first objective together, the helicopter crash site. So I found a likely looking spot, I think here. And I start off by placing an invisible helipad. Like we talked about earlier, that's going to be under objects and props. And we want the invisible one. We'll put it right there. And as I mentioned earlier, that's basically what's going to guide the helicopter to this location so that the players can fast rope out of it. There's ways that you can script a helicopter to do this using Eden. I know that lots of designers do that. I prefer to do it using MCC in Zeus when the game session is live. That'll make more sense when we get to part 2. But for now, just trust me. It's very quick and easy, and it'll happen when the game session starts. So I'm looking down this gully right now for a likely place for the crash scene. What I'm concerned about is I know that I'm going to want to place some OpFor and patrols around this area, and I want to have enough distance between where the helicopter is going to be and where our helipad is going to be back there, so that the OpFor doesn't start shooting at the helicopter right away and making the AI do crazy things. So this looks like it's conceivably far enough away. So let's start building right here. I've got heli in the search up here, which is exactly what I need. Down here we got some helicopter wrecks. I'm going to use this one, the Huey helicopter. Let's see what that looks like. That looks good. Yeah, maybe right about here. And now we got to dress it up a little bit. So I want to get a crater out, get some torn up dirt. This one's pretty good. This one's good too. It's just smaller. And then I want the skinny end to be towards the tail of the helicopter, about like that, I should think, right? I can use the the Alt key to raise and lower it. We are in the, as you can see here, the sea level mode, so I could sink this into the ground more or less as I wish to do. That looks pretty good to me here. Now let's get a grass cutter out and get rid of some of this grass, so that the dirt looks a little more tore up, maybe just on one side. And how about some wreckage? Excuse me. Rotor blades also in the helicopter wreck section. That looks cool. Change the orientation, like they flew off when they broke. And maybe how about a door? Helicopters here, door. Either one of these should work. I like this one, I think. They won't know that it's not from a Huey. Let's move this blade out. Whoops, disappeared. Gotta use the Alt key to get it to show. Yeah, that's good right there. How about a little more debris? This time we're actually going to search for debris. There's some good stuff here, like actual pieces of plane, but I think it's too big for our helicopter, so we'll just use some rocks, and maybe we'll put some over here to change the angle so they look a little bit different. I've also in the past used glass shards, like glass debris. These things, they look really good too on the ground, but not when you have a lot of grass. You won't even see them. It's good for like concrete or pavement, like a wrecked car or something like that. So now we could have a little bit of fun with the modules. you know what? It looks like it's sticking out of the ground a little bit here, so let's sink it. There we go. That's why it's good to give your stuff once over in all directions and also at eye level, right? Very good idea. We can go here under effects in the modules, F5 modules. You'll see a bunch of really useful, cool stuff here. We want persistent smoke pillar, which is part of the Achilles mod. This is cool. You can place it here. Again, you want to look at it from 3 angles. This goes for just about everything that you place. If you're relying on just one view, you're really only getting, you know, this side and like the top. You're not getting the other side or the front. So you're not sure, is this directly underneath? Could it be 3 or 4 feet past the wreck even? I've had that happen in different things that I've placed. So you want to look from at least 2 or 3 different directions. And that looks like it's a pretty good spot. We could also do some fire. I think this is native to vanilla, this fire module, which is why you don't see it when you place it. You have to launch the simulation either through play scenario at bottom right or like an actual mission file. Just trust me, you will see fire at that point. It's there, but we don't get to see it right now. So if we double click on it, we can see these dialog options that open up here. These are various qualities of the fire: its size, its color, the speed of the particles. You can manipulate those to your heart's content and get different looks, but by default this is kind of a small, medium type fire, and I do like what the smoke is doing. That seems appropriate to a helicopter that's crashed recently. That's pretty good. So what we need now are some dead bodies, and this takes me to a gripe that I have with Arma. It's a military game, but there's no easy way to access dead bodies. You have to take the live models and kind of make bodies out of them yourself, and it doesn't work very well because they have a tremendously frustrating tendency to always assume the same pose as soon as they hit the ground. Kind of a pain in the ass to have to work around. So when I test this, I'll try to show you what I mean. If I take one of our stout Ranger lads here, let's do crew. I'm gonna put him right here. I'll turn him towards us, and by the way, you'll notice that he has defaulted as a player, right? Drives me frickin' insane. Please, if you guys figure out how to turn that off, you've got to tell me. You will help my hairline tremendously. So I can't stand that. Anyway, so what you would do to make this guy a body on the ground is go inside, and there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? So you're going to go in here, and you are going to type this into the init. And what that is the script that's going to, when this unit populates, it's going to set its damage to 100%. So it will be dead. It will be laying face down on the ground. Its left arm will be straight out or maybe slightly curved, and its right arm will be bent. And every unit that I set like that looks exactly the same way. It's frustrating. I don't know why it's like that. Something else that you can try is, another playable, right, is to just lower the health bar all the way to 0. But that dude will come out in the same exact pose as this guy. What I've seen work occasionally is if I take this guy here, right, I could do set damage, or I could lower his health bar and then give him a starting position that's 150 or more meters above the ground. You'll see him way up there now. There he is. When the simulation starts, his body will hit the ground and physics will affect it, right, when it bounces. When I've done this with civilians, it works to some extent. They'll be laying on the ground in variable positions. But for some reason, with military guys, it seems that it doesn't have any effect. I just want to get a guy here, another crewman. Put him here. Put that in there, and you'll see what he looks like. I'll make him face a different direction. You'll see what he'll look like. Okay, so the other thing that I want to do with this is I want to set a trigger to go off in this area when players get to this. So when they come to investigate, and they get close enough, they'll get some briefing information. And I'm going to use a trigger with a script called HintC in it that will put text in the middle of the screen. I don't want to make this a huge area because if they're engaging the patrol, I don't want a block of text to come up and interrupt their vision, because you have to click continue on the screen to make the text disappear. So if I make it a smaller area, I feel confident they won't be in the middle of a firefight when they get there. So actually, yeah, this is also, I've also saved this as a custom composition. I'm going to place that here. Let's look inside, see what we got. I set it for 10 by 10. We can make that smaller. We can make that, let's see what 8 by 8 looks like. And we're going to set the activation types. We're going to want blue 4 present. So when blue 4 is present in this 8 by 8 area, it's going to activate this script. So the text that I want here is something to the effect of Alright, so that's what it's going to say as soon as the players get into the trigger area. We'll set it for blue 4 present activation. We'll make it a little bit smaller. See how that looks on the map. So when a blue 4 player comes into this box, they'll get a nice briefing update. The other thing to do now is to set up an OpFor patrol in the area. Okay, so now most of the bad guys for this scenario we're going to place in Zeus while the game session is live. The reason for that is it keeps the processes quicker, right? Because you're not putting all the bad guys down at once. Also, I've noticed that the AI seems to perform better when you place them in Zeus. I don't know what it is about AI that I've placed in Eden, and maybe this is just strictly my own anecdotal experience. Maybe I'm crazy, but it seems like they're more responsive when they're placed in Zeus. If you place them in the Eden, it just doesn't seem like they take orders as well. So I'll tend to just place like garrisons, watchtowers, and patrols, and then like the bulk of the fighting forces I'll do later. So we go into here and we want a squad, and I've decided that the bad guys, I'm going to use these Al-Qaeda dudes. I really like their models. I think they're pretty cool. Now, as you know, the group that we play with is pretty competent. They can easily take out a 10-man team. I don't think that's a problem. I do want to give them a little bit of a challenge. As soon as they land over by that invisible helipad I set up, when the game is live, I will put a respawn there so that they can just, if they get killed in this engagement, they can respawn over there. So let's, without further ado, let's put the first of our bad dudes down. Alright, hello. So, I'm going to introduce you to the concept of waypoints and how to do patrols. So this patrol right now, as we sort of discussed earlier, this is the team leader, right? We can easily select the whole squad by hitting the caret on top there. Caret like indicator, not caret like a vegetable. So I'm going to want him to do a circular pattern, but I want, and I could kind of adjust this wedge, but keep in mind, whoa, some of these guys, yeah, see, do you see how half of the squad is in the ground right now? So two things have happened to make that possible. Surface snapping isn't enabled, and also we're at sea level. So let's try that again so that no people disappear. There we go. All right. So I want this patrol to be aware. I don't want them to be like 100% negligent of their surroundings, but I also don't want them to be in full combat mode. These guys are still in the air. You can grab them and bring them back down. If you leave them like that, they'll fall when the scenario starts. If it's a small distance like this guy, no big deal. But if they're like more than that, they could potentially injure themselves and be wounded from the get-go. So with all of them selected, I'm going to hit Shift and then right mouse, and that will place our very first waypoint. Okay, I've done this next to this guy. Oh, and by the way, notice that he is playable. You know how I feel about that, right? Okay. I've put this here on purpose because I'm going to change their default attitudes. As it is, they're going to sort of like fast jog to the waypoints by default. I want them to walk as though they're on like a normal patrol. So I double click that, and I'm going to limit their movement. This keeps them at like a relaxed walking pace. Okay. Here I could change their formation. I am fine with it being a wedge right now. There's 10 of them. But I could do column, file. I do these quite a lot. I can do staggered columns as well. I don't do echelons very much, but anyway, that's up to you. And then in behavior, I'm going to put down safe. Never ever pick careless. They'll keep doing what looks like a safe attitude. They'll keep doing that regardless of what's happening around them. I want them to be able to immediately jump into a combat stance. So I could also do aware. That would be fine. Maybe aware is, now that I think about it, more apropos because, yeah, it's a crash site, right? So that's fine. We do that. Now I can add more waypoints, and they will, as soon as they reach here, so when the scenario starts, they'll sort of jog the 3 feet it takes to get here, and then they'll go into a limited aware behavior for the rest of the waypoints we're about to place. So let me zoom out. Let me make sure this movement point is selected, which it is. And then I'm going to Control Shift. I'm going to hit them both down, and I'm going to lay some other waypoints down. Okay, let me zoom again. And I want to try to make this like a circle. So I don't want to go too far to the north because my helicopter is going to be coming around there. All right, and then this last one, I want to bring it as close to this one as is reasonable. And I'm going to change this one by double-clicking on it and making it a cycle right here. And basically, what that's telling it to do is to jump to this one and start over again. So this is going to be a loop that continues until it's interrupted. They'll just keep patrolling this until acted upon. So you can edit this. You can, move it around. I want them to come that way a little bit more. This one I want to come this way. You can do, a little bit of tweaking after the fact. But that is essentially a basic patrol. And you can do this to Blue 4 allies, OpFor units, all kinds of stuff. I could even, and I think I will later, put one with a vehicle, like a motorized squad on the road. We'll do that a little bit later. So that's that for now. Let's open up the play test and see if everything's working okay. Okay, here we are, playtesting through the Eden editor, but in Zeus, so I can move the camera around and see the things that we placed. You can see the debris, the doors and stuff. Here's what the smoke looks like. The wind seems to be pretty strong right now. It's pushing the smoke pretty hard. There's the fire I promised you. And we've got the bodies. So here's the one with the animation script. You can see the stance, right? But these guys are in identical stances as I mentioned before. Even the guy that we put up in the air, where did he bounce to? There he goes. I think he bounced pretty hard. And he bounced and landed in the same exact position. I don't know why that is. One of the peculiarities of Arma for sure. But I think that looks pretty good. So one of the things we can do, let's see where our patrol is. There they are in the background. They're doing their route. And that's what Aware will look like. It's like a combat patrol. And their movement speed is limited. So they're walking, taking their time, making sure they're not about to get jumped. The players will have to deal with that. So let's test our script, right? One of the things that I'm going to do real quick, using Zeus functionality, I'm going to get rid of those guys so they don't shoot me as soon as they spawn a blue 4 guy in here. Any blue 4 guy will do for this. I don't mean to jump ahead in the Zeus, but I'm going to take this guy over so we can test our script. Now we set it for 8 meters from the crash site, and let's see what happens. There we go. It's telling us what we need to know. This is what the players will see. So to get rid of this box, they have to hit continue, which is why I make it kind of happen close to the wreck. And then it comes up at the top right for a limited amount of time. Everything's working well. Let's move things along and continue with our design. Let's move on to the rest of the scenario. We're here at the crash site for now. You can see I've added some OpFor in hidden positions for the players to deal with as they approach the objective. I've taken the liberty of doing a lot of this already. If it's stuff that I've already covered, I didn't want to duplicate it so as not to waste your time. I did a patrol, more or less exactly like I did the patrol with the 8-man squad or 10-man squad, whatever it was over there. I did it with a vehicle. I tested it out. It works perfectly. So these guys are set to patrol the following route. Maybe you could see it. The players will probably be coming from this location. Who really knows? Players can do what they want to do, but the vehicle goes all the way to here, turns around, comes back, does a kind of elongated figure 8, and it'll do this until it encounters someone. And so because it's set to aware, if it does in fact spot enemies, it will drop off these passengers. So they'll probably have to deal with that. I'm going to flesh out a lot of the enemy positions in Zeus, as I mentioned before. So if I'm going to put guys down like as a squad to fight, I prefer the AI in Zeus. But one-offs, 2 or 3 guys like in a garrison, I have no problem with doing that. In Eden, I've put a couple guys down in these little buildings. These little buildings, this one's the only one that's actually on the map. I added a few as a point of interest for the players as they move. And a couple of dudes are hidden in here. There'll definitely be more AI in here when the game goes live. And I've done the same thing with this building over here. There's another one of those what are they, BTR 40s? Yeah, BTR 40 overlooking the area. One thing I do want to cover is these towers I added, these little small guard towers. You can search for them. You'll see them a lot in scenarios because they're very useful. But if ever you find yourself wanting to place an AI in a static position like that, here's my advice to you. I do it every single time unless I forget for some reason. Let's put a machine gunner in there. Okay. You will want to make sure that you force a standing posture. So here in stance, if you click this, well, any one of these that you click will be forced. So if I do this, he'll crouch until killed, he'll lay down. But for people for AIs and things like this, I always make them stand. And the reason for that is that when engaged, the AI will go prone almost every time. and then it becomes very hard for the players to dig this dude out. And really what ends up happening is one of two things: either he takes itself out of the combat by going prone in here, or it'll clip and be able to fire through the wall at the players, which is pretty instant break and immersion. So yeah, anybody, and that would include guys like this. He is crouched, and it's a forced crouch, right? Double click on him, and you'll see he's in a forced crouch. So he'll never be able to go prone. Don't forget to do that. You won't like it when you do. I've gone ahead and garrisoned this building using a module, and I will show you how to do that. So if we go into F5 systems and then into modules, these are the same thing that we use to put furniture in buildings. We can use to garrison the building, right? So I'm going to want to put, I want them to fight house to house. You know, the players love to do CQB. So let's see, the challenge here is that not all of these buildings might be recognized by this module. So let's see if it does. So in here, right, I've picked Garrison Building, hover over it and click, and then we get this dialog box. If it's prompting me for a number of units, that's a good sign that it has in fact the ability to detect and populate that building type. So it's a long scroll here because we have a lot of faction dudes. Scrolling. We want Al Qaeda. Okay, and let's put 5 guys in this building. Click OK, and there they are. They'll be in and or around. We see one guy outside. If we go inside the building, we can see there's some dudes in here. And might have to tweak a little bit. I'm going to right click to remove that. Give this guy a firing position outside the window. Looks good to me. When these guys are garrisoned, I find that it doesn't really matter if they are still grouped to a squad leader. They'll pretty much stay in the position that they're in. But if I were to do this the manual way, if I were to, and let me show you how that looks. If I were to grab a rifle squad from this faction, let's say we're going to grab 6 guys, and I'm going to want to put them in this building. All right, so I would put them down on the ground, and then individually put guys in various positions inside the building. I'll have to check to make sure he's not clipping through a wall. I just want to show you this very quickly. Okay, so let's say this was a more developed, maybe I can get a guy in here. Okay, what will happen to those guys when the game starts is they will reform into a wedge around the squad leader because they're still all linked to their squad leader, and their default position right now is wedge. So I've tried to change that with settings in here, and I haven't had any luck. If you figure out how to do it, please let me know. But the easy fix is to just select the whole squad and have them no longer be following this particular individual. Then they stay where they were placed. They'll react to combat, they'll react to contact, but they won't break their positioning. So that's good for you to know. I've added a trigger in here. It's another HintC trigger. I want this guy to give the players information about where the VIP is being held. So, but what I've done with this trigger, I would just want to show you real quick. You can double click and you can set a Z position height, right? So this is happening at the same level as the AI that has his hands up. And this is what it'll say. And to get the AI guy to do this, you can double click on him, and you can set this particular animation, hands held high. So he looks like he's surrendering. I don't want them to kill him either immediately, so I've disabled his ability to take damage if you look under special states. Remember a while ago I told you if something is mission critical, like if it's a scripted event, something that I want to have happen or I want them to discover, I don't want him to just be blown up and then this trigger, you know, like if somebody shoots an RPG at this building and he dies, like this won't make any sense to them and it'll be silly. So when they discover him, I'm going to place a marker on the map. A lot of this stuff we can get away with not triggering because we have a small group of players and the Zeus can manage everything. Sometimes the Zeus can even play along. But in a larger, you know, like these groups that have 50, 60 people, they can't keep track of all the objectives simultaneously. So they need to trigger things to happen one after the other automatically. We don't have to worry so much about that, luckily. So I can just, on the map, place a marker at this mosque complex that's over here, which is where the prisoner is being held. Now this building is not recognized by the ZEI module that we used earlier, this one here, Garrison Building, so I had to do it manually. And because I wanted, it's like a 3-level structure, and I wanted there to be a sort of an even flow of combat throughout, I just sort of lovingly placed them where it would make sense. I don't want to have to do that to all these buildings though. And I checked the other ones are detectable, so this is really the only one I have to do it with. And I've taken the liberty of adding some furniture just to show you. This probably took 10 minutes. I wasn't too particular. But especially when you get more familiar with what objects there are available, it really cuts down your time. So they have like a little eating area here that they were using before they were so rudely interrupted by the players. They have some supplies, some water, whatever. And in here is the CIA operative. And he's being held in a makeshift cage. Now this cage thing is not part of the map. I used shoot house panels for the walls, and I used this iron gate for the door. This gate is a problem. It doesn't work very well. By the way, this is an animation that let's talk about the CIA operative before we talk about the gate. CIA operative has had a rough time, right? How come it's not showing? There it is. I don't know why it didn't show earlier, but because it was I didn't have the officer completely selected. So he's got 82% head damage. So that's how he looks beat up. And this animation is, I think it's called sitting hands tied or something like that. Sit handcuffed, that's what it's called. So now his damage is not, it's still enabled, so they could kill him accidentally. And in a way, that's okay with me because there's not an event that's dependent on this. So, you know, if he dies in a crossfire, then them's are the breaks. Right? So they would have succeeded up until this point. They would have probably, we could say that they would have failed their objective. Like the mission's not going to stop, but unfortunately they weren't successful in saving this guy, and that's life, isn't it? So, but hopefully they do exercise a little bit of restraint and don't like set up a massive explosion right here and kill him. This is something that I was going to say about the iron gate here. This iron gate is openable and closable in spirit only. It never actually works. So I have to use this module here, open close doors. So this is found again in the modules. If we do doors, it'll come up under object modifiers, open close doors. If I double click it, you can set the radius. I'm still selecting the operative. You can set the radius, and you can set it to work for doors or hatches. You can also use it to close doors, but in this case I wanted to force this door open, and I've play tested it and it works. This door is open. The radius is small enough that the front door to this complex is not affected, but like if I set this for 100 meters, every door within 100 meters would open. This is good to know in case you have a map, and lithium, when I first started using it, I was having this problem. I don't know what fixed it. I didn't do anything to fix it. Maybe there was some kind of update. The doors did not open. The buildings are great. They're enterable. They're rendered on the inside, but it needed a little help. So everywhere that I had objectives scripted or set to happen, I had to put one of these modules to make sure that the doors were open. Then the players never noticed. So that's a very powerful tool. I know that I told you earlier, where is this? I'll have to look. I think it might be in Zeus. Yeah, it's in Zeus. The module that turns off the lights that are hard-coded into the map. While we're here, I wanted to show you one last trigger type. So laying down a trigger, if I double-click on it, This particular trigger is called Radio Alpha. It could be Radio Alpha, Radio Bravo, Radio Charlie, what have you. I don't need to worry about the size of the trigger. I could actually have put it anywhere on the map. It doesn't matter. Under activation, I'm going to select Radio Alpha. Okay, and then what I want to have happen here. And you could look on YouTube or Google for all kinds of cool stuff to happen. I have done music, I have done messages, I have done, you could do reinforcements, all of those things I've done. Like right now, if we were to, let's say, trigger an effect of some kind, we could make it, that would be boring. We could have a radio message come up using voice. We could have music or a special effect of some kind, an alarm. I've used it specifically for this. I've used it before. So if I set for alarm, when when any player sets off the Radio Alpha, they'll activate that. So what I do is I go into trigger, and under the name of the description right here, I say Zeus only, and I just remember that this is the alarm. So what it'll do is when the game starts, if you hit the tilde key and you get the radio options up here, you hit 0 again for radio, you'll see an option called Radio Alpha. If you select it, it'll play an alarm. So you have to be out of Zeus to do that. You have to be in your playable role. But you can do a lot of things with this. It's a very easy trigger that gives you control as to when it happens without having to get into more complicated scripting if you're not very knowledgeable about scripting like I am not. I use Radio Alpha all the time. So and like I said, you could have Radio Bravo, Radio Charlie. You could add all kinds of sound and different events. So I'm going to remove it for now because they're not going to play an alarm when the players rescue that dude. But what is going to happen is something that I'm going to take care of in Zeus. There's going to be a QRF, a quick reaction force, is going to come in here via Mi-8 helicopters and try to retake this complex from them. So that's going to happen in Zeus. You're going to see what it looks like in part 2. Last thing I tried to do is think about the exfil from the mission. In this particular case, it's going to happen by helicopter. I'm going to call it in Zeus. I'm not going to worry about setting that up in Eden. And I want to accommodate it by placing a invisible helipad somewhere. The players will make their way here when the chopper comes for them. They'll have to have the CIA with them if he's still alive. Either I will take him over in Zeus and lead him out, like, take him over and run with them to the chopper, or sometimes they'll just take him captive, using the ACE functionality, and just physically lead him to this area. But I'll show you how to call the helicopters and stuff in Zeus. I know I said I was going to do that. Once they're all on board and the helicopter takes off and is returning to F.O.B, that's when I'll end the scenario. A scenario like this, I think that's the logical place to end it. When they're, we can just assume that they made it back safely, but from the air gives a nice, satisfying ending. It's up to you how you want to end your scenarios, but that's the particular way that I like to do it. So just remember that if you're going to have them picked up in an exfil situation, could be a truck, armored vehicles, whatever. One of these helipads is absolutely indispensable. The second to last stage is what we're doing now, and that's what I call the finishing touches. In order to do this stage, you have to navigate to your C drive and then go to Users, your name, Documents, Arma 3 other profiles, your screen name, whatever it is, and then go to MP Missions. This is where you'll find all of the Eden construction files and the exported mission file folders and stuff. All of that stuff is in here, or the data that will be put in the exported multiplayer mission files. Incidentally, going here and manually deleting these files is the only way to delete this stuff. There's no native way in Arma, like in the host server screen. To do this, you have to navigate here, select, right click, delete to get rid of one of these. I'm sure in Arma 4 they'll take care of that. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to open the folder that contains the mission we've been working on, right? The data for that mission. And just a brief explanation of what you're seeing. When you first open it, all you'll have is mission.sqm. That's the actual scenario information. You basically don't ever want to mess with that. You're going to leave that alone no matter what, regardless of what scripts and other folders you'll be adding. This IMG folder, description.ext, onPlayerKilled SQF, and onPlayerRespawn SQF are files that I reuse all the time. I keep them in a holding, like a folder in my documents, and I copy and paste them into every new mission that I create, and then I tweak them as necessary. If I want to run special scripts or have special music files or whatever's involved that I need to tweak, I'll do it on a mission by mission basis. And how you create these is by using Notepad. You create a new file. In this case, you'd call it description. Save it. It'll save it as a .txt. You want to overwrite txt and change it to, in this case, ext. For these two, you're going to overwrite txt and rename them .sqf. And what you have here is some hard-coded information about the scenario. So this, because of the respawn that we enjoy, the specific respawn we enjoy, we have some respawn information here. Anything that's in here is going to supersede any of the settings that you might have put into the attributes of your scenario when you created it. This information here is information that will set up the load screen when this gets loaded for the players. This is the title of the mission. This is a brief description. You could make it longer than this. I just like to make it quick and easy. This is a picture that I took using the Splendid camera while I was playtesting. And what you need to do for this image, you can use a JPEG format, but it has to be twice as wide as it is tall. So I make all mine 1024 by 512. This is what it looks like. That's the picture I took. And I'll put a little video right here of what the loading screen looks like for you. And then lastly, just your name or whatever author credit you want to provide. Additionally, any special scripts would happen below this information. You can find a lot of this stuff online. I'm not going to be discussing or posting any of that stuff at this time because it's a long enough video as it is, but I will put links in the comments section to very useful either tutorial videos or, for example, like Alias in the workshop is a workshop contributor that has some very useful scripts that I use a lot. So back to these two files here, onPlayerKilled, onPlayerRespawn. These are the things that enable the respawn that we use, which is it'll save the loadout when a player is killed and then load it when he or she respawns. And basically that's makes the players have to conserve their ammo, and if they run out they have to capture weapons on the battlefield to use. So in order to do that, you're going to create this file and you're going to put this bit of code in there. I'll put this in the video description as well. This is the command that causes Arma to save the inventory when the player dies. And then this one here, this bit of code, is what forces Arma to load the inventory. Here is the picture, right? And you're not going to put this in a subfolder. You're going to put it just right here in the main MP folder, MP missions folder, that is. And then what we have here in this IMG subfolder are all of the images that you want to appear in any of the editable whiteboards or screens or banners that you might put into the mission. Here's our unit heraldry. And this is the logo that you saw in the playtest. And that's about it for the finishing touches. the very, very final thing that you're going to do happens now. You're going to want to save your work. And then right here, go down to export, export to multiplayer. That's going to package all your designing and any of the assets that you might have included, such as sound files, image files, scripts, those kinds of things that are in the MP mission folder. It's going to package it into the multiplayer file. If you don't do this and you mess around in the MP missions folder, it may not have your final changes in the mission. So be sure to make that the very last thing that you do. And that's it, everybody. Congratulations on making it this far, finishing your first mission. I will be seeing you in part 2, which is going to be the tutorial on how to run a live play session using Zeus. And thank you very much for your attention. If you have any tips and tricks that you want to share in the comments section, that would be great. I encourage everybody to put any questions and things like that in there so we can use it as a touchstone in the future and both grow our understanding of how to do this. So once again, thank you so much and take care.